The reckoning of a people pleaser. One night, God spoke a single sentence to me that I haven't been able to forget. He said, stop being nice to everyone. That one statement rattled my core, because I had been trained my whole life to be nice. It was what I was taught, what I was conditioned to believe, and what everyone expected of me. I was told that niceness was holiness, that it was humility, that it was the very definition of Christianity. I was shaped by the belief that if I pleased people, I was pleasing God. But heaven is now raising its voice to tell me something completely different. God said, stop being nice to everyone, because your niceness has chained you, drained you, and blinded you more than sin ever could. It has made you stay silent when you were meant to speak, made you weak when you needed to stand firm, made you passive when you were supposed to discern, and made you available when you should have been protected. Your niceness has caused you to tolerate what God told you to walk away from. It has made you accept what He already uprooted and remain in places where His Spirit had long since departed. It has caused you to surrender your identity, your anointing, your boundaries, and your calling to people who never respected your purpose. So stop being nice to everyone, because niceness is not a fruit of the Spirit. The Bible never instructs us to be very nice. It tells us to be kind, to be wise, to be discerning, to be courageous, to be strong, to be vigilant, to be holy. Niceness, however, is something society created to pacify people, to silence them, to confuse them, to disarm them, and ultimately to control them. It is not a divine assignment. It is a social expectation. And God is breaking that expectation off you in this season. You have been applauded for your niceness, but heaven is grieving because your kindness without boundaries has cost you your peace. You have been celebrated for it, but the kingdom mourns because your niceness has suffocated your gifts. People love you for being nice, but God is calling you to be powerful, and those two things are not the same. Niceness is artificial, power is spiritual. Niceness is external, power is internal. Niceness is performative, power is transformative. Niceness is about them, power is about Him. You were not born to merely be a nice person. You were born to be a chosen person. You are called to be a warrior, a voice, a vessel, a breakthrough carrier, a destiny protector, a lineage changer, a mountain shaker, a demon disruptor. But your niceness has made you forget who you truly are. Niceness told you not to speak for fear of offending. But God said, cry aloud and spare not. Niceness told you not to set boundaries because people might not like it. But God said, guard your heart above all else. Niceness told you to let it go, to tolerate it, to keep the peace at any cost. But God asked, what fellowship does light have with darkness? A niceness told you to accept everything, surrender everything, ignore everything. But God said, resist the devil and he will flee. Say niceness has become your spiritual weakness. You think you're being Christian, but you're being controlled. You think you're being humble, but you're being drained. You think you're being loving, but you're losing yourself. You think you're being peaceful, but you're sacrificing your destiny. God says, stop being nice to everyone because your niceness is not protecting you. It is exposing you to spiritual predators. It is not representing Christ. It is misrepresenting your identity. It is not righteousness. It is your fear wearing a holy mask. And heaven is ripping off that mask. Every time you said yes when God told you no, that was niceness. Every time you let someone stay who had already been evicted, that was niceness. Every time you supported someone who drained you, that was niceness. Every time you tolerated disrespect in the name of peace, that was niceness. Every time you prayed for someone who repeatedly abused your trust, that was niceness. Every time you accepted treatment that broke your heart just to keep a relationship, that was niceness. But God did not create you to be nice. He created you to be wise. Wisdom is not passive. It does not tolerate foolishness, entertain manipulation, or stay silent in the face of injustice. It does not grant access to untrustworthy hearts or remain where dishonor lives. Niceness has made you a doormat, but God created you to be a gatekeeper. Niceness has made you a people pleaser, but God created you to be a purpose walker. Niceness has made you agreeable, but God created you to be anointed. Niceness has made you fear rejection, but God created you to fear Him alone. Niceness has made you bend, shrink, and disappear, but God created you to stand, grow, and shine. A nice person apologizes for their strength. A God-led person uses it. A nice person hides their voice. A God-led person commands atmospheres. A nice person accepts anything. A God-led person tests every spirit. A nice person avoids confrontation. A God-led person confronts anything that threatens their calling. A nice person is available to everyone. A God-led person is accessible only by divine permission. God said, "Stop being nice to everyone, because you have become predictable to the enemy." He knows you will say yes. He knows you won't walk away. He knows you won't confront him. He knows you won't guard yourself. He knows you will overgive. He knows you will stay silent. And your silence has become his playground. Your niceness has become his habitat. Your openness has become his invitation. Your availability has become his advantage. The enemy is not afraid of nice people. He is afraid of our obedient people. Nice people can be manipulated. Obedient people cannot. Nice people can be controlled. Obedient people walk in discernment. Nice people can be silenced. Obedient people roar. Nice people can be missiled. Obedient people hear the voice of God. And God is calling you back to obedience. Not the obedience of men, but the obedience of heaven. The obedience where you choose conviction over approval. Where you prioritize purpose over relationships. Where your boundaries reflect your spiritual identity. Where you stop sacrificing your soul to maintain an image of niceness. Niceness is not your assignment, transformation is. Niceness is not your calling, purpose is. Niceness is not your mission, obedience is. Niceness is not your destiny, influence is. Niceness is not your identity, holiness is. The person God is raising in this season is not a nice person. They are a kingdom person. And a kingdom person is not passive. They are powerful, not available, aligned, not controlled, intentional, not drained, discerning, not silent, strategic, not weak-rooted, not manipulated, anchored, not confused, guided by the Spirit. That is why God is dismantling your niceness. He is stripping away the false costume of politeness you wore to survive. He is removing the fake peace you created by suppressing your truth. He is tearing down the fear-driven identity that kept you small. He is breaking the emotional slavery that made you addicted to approval. He is crushing the passiveness that made you feel obligated to tolerate mistreatment. Niceness is not the reason God blessed you, but it is the reason many of your blessings were delayed. Niceness is not why people love you, but it is why they drained you. Niceness is not why some relationships lasted, but it is why they lasted longer than they should have. Niceness is not why you were chosen, but it is why you have struggled to step into your calling. Niceness has left you exhausted, tired, empty, resentful, and spiritually dehydrated. You gave to people who never gave back. You invested in people who never valued your investment. You helped people who never helped you heal. You supported people who never supported your purpose. You stood with people who never stood with you. You poured into people who ripped holes in your soul. You forgave people who kept wounding you. You covered people who exposed you. You rescued people who watched you drown. And after all of that, they still expected more from you. But heaven is interrupting that cycle. God is calling you out of emotional slavery and into spiritual authority. He is calling you to stop saying yes when He said no. To stop excusing behavior He has already judged. To stop accepting pain He never assigned. To stop tolerating people who disrespected your destiny. To stop sacrificing your peace for relationships He never ordained. You are not a peacekeeper. You are a peacemaker. There is a difference. Peacekeepers avoid conflict. Peacemakers confront what breaks peace. Peacekeepers stay silent. Peacemakers speak truth. Peacekeepers suppress themselves. Peacemakers stand in alignment with God. Peacekeepers try to please everyone. Peacemakers obey God even if it offends everyone. God is not calling you to be nice. He is calling you to be whole. Niceness bends to people. Wholeness bows to God. Niceness hides your feelings. Wholeness honors your emotions. Niceness ignores red flags. Wholeness respects boundaries. Niceness avoids truth. Wholeness embraces reality. Niceness gives everything. Wholeness gives wisely. You have spent years being the nice person who loved too much, trusted too easily, forgave too quickly, tolerated too long, apologized for things that weren't your fault, lowered your standards, silenced your worth, and abandoned parts of yourself to keep relationships alive. But God is calling you out of that version of yourself. He is calling you into the person He originally designed, someone who knows who they are, whose they are, and why they are here. A person who walks with holy confidence, guards their spirit, honors their value, discerns motives, chooses their circle carefully, and obeys God above all else. God said, stop being nice to everyone, because your destiny requires a stronger version of you. The path ahead requires discernment, not niceness. The doors you are about to enter require boldness, not politeness. The people you are about to meet require boundaries, not availability. The calling you are about to activate requires courage, not compliance. The season you are stepping into requires you to be led by conviction, not controlled by approval. You cannot carry both niceness and purpose into the next chapter. One will destroy the other, and God is insisting that purpose must win. Misplaced kindness can become the very reason you keep attracting the same pain over and over again. When you lead with softness but without wisdom, you become spiritually predictable, emotionally accessible, and relationally vulnerable to people who were never assigned to your life. Many people believe their kindness is a holy offering, but if it is not aligned with discernment, it becomes a trap, repeating cycles of heartbreak, betrayal, disappointment, and exhaustion. You keep meeting the same draining friends, manipulative leaders, and toxic patterns because you haven't learned yet that kindness without boundaries is an open door for spiritual parasites. Heaven is not attacking your kindness. It is confronting the way you distribute it. Your kindness is not meant to be thrown everywhere like seeds on concrete. It is meant to be sown in the right soil, with the right people, at the right time, under divine instruction. Here is a painful truth you must face. You don't attract what you deserve. You attract what you allow. When you give too freely, love too quickly, forgive too easily, accommodate too readily, and silence yourself too often, you unconsciously teach people how to treat you. When you overfunction, others underfunction. When you tolerate nonsense, others continue giving nonsense. When you avoid conflict, others ignore your needs. When you always say yes, others stop asking what you want. When you shrink yourself, others grow comfortable taking advantage. You become a magnet for takers, leeches, and spiritual opportunists who know you will never walk away. And as long as you remain emotionally available, without discernment, you will keep meeting the same wolves wearing different clothing. People do not repeat patterns in your life unless they know you will participate. Pain repeats when you refuse to break the agreement that allows it. You repeat heartbreak not because you are cursed, but because you haven't yet learned what behavior, mindset, or boundary is missing. You repeat cycles not because God is silent, but because you are ignoring the inner voice telling you, this is familiar. This is the same pattern in a new face. This is the same disappointment dressed in a new opportunity. A person who operates only from kindness does not recognize danger early. They recognize it after they are already wounded. They don't see red flags. They make excuses for them. They don't walk away at signs of disrespect. They pray the person becomes better. They don't guard their soul. They give unlimited access to those who should have been kept outside the gates. Misplaced kindness becomes a spiritual blindfold. It makes you overlook what God is revealing. It makes you justify what the Holy Spirit is warning you about. It makes you attach yourself to assignments God never approved. It makes you stay in relationships God already ended. It makes you trust people with no spiritual integrity. It makes you defend people God has exposed. And every time you choose to be nice instead of obedient, you step into another cycle of the same pain, wearing a different disguise. If you keep attracting emotional pain, you may believe something is wrong with your ability to love. But the real issue is your failure to protect your love. You think you have a broken heart, but the truth is you have broken boundaries. You think you have bad luck, but the truth is you have mismanaged access. You think you are too sensitive, but the truth is you are too available. You think you are too emotional, but the truth is you are too tolerant. You think you are too forgiving, but the truth is you forgive without requiring change. You think you are too loyal, but the truth is you are loyal to people who haven't earned it. Your kindness becomes misplaced when it is given without discernment. Discernment is what separates divine connections from demonic distractions. It tells you who deserves your presence, your energy, your compassion, your support, your loyalty. Without discernment, your kindness becomes your curse. With discernment, it becomes a weapon. When you have discernment, you no longer attract users. You attract builders. No longer liars, you attract truth bearers. No longer manipulators, you attract protectors. No longer emotional projects, you attract spiritual partners. Because discernment elevates your standard of access. Many people misplace their kindness because they confuse loneliness with destiny. They give too much because they fear being alone. They tolerate disrespect because they fear rejection. They stay with people who drain them because they fear starting over. They keep broken friendships because they fear confrontation. They entertain expired relationships because they fear change. But fear-driven kindness is not kindness. It is bondage disguised as compassion. And as long as fear dictates where your kindness flows, your heart will continue to be a target. A person who keeps attracting pain is not weak. They are untrained. They haven't yet learned the divine strategy of protecting their heart. They haven't learned the strength of saying no, the power of stepping back, the wisdom of silence, the authority of boundaries. They haven't learned that kindness without balance becomes a self-inflicted wound, and that kindness without standards becomes an invitation for broken people to break them further. Misplaced kindness comes from a belief that loving everyone is holy. But true holiness requires wisdom. Even Jesus did not give equal access to everyone. He had the crowds, the 70, the 12, the 3, and the one he loved. His love was perfect, but his access was selective. He fed thousands, taught hundreds, walked with 12, confided in 3, and revealed his deepest revelations to 1. Kindness does not mean access. Compassion does not mean closeness. Forgiveness does not mean familiarity. Love does not mean tolerance. A person who understands this stops attracting pain because they learn to align their kindness with divine order. They learn to love someone and still walk away, to forgive and still protect their soul, to be kind without being used, to care deeply without losing themselves, to bless others without burning out, to offer grace without granting unlimited access, to be compassionate without being controlled, to serve people without sacrificing their identity. Many people attract repeated pain because they ignore the warning signs in their spirit. They feel discomfort but call it insecurity. They feel hesitation but call it overthinking. They feel conviction but call it fear. They feel dishonor but call it misunderstanding. They feel God pulling them away but think they must stay to prove their loyalty. They feel the Holy Spirit whispering, "Yerf, this is not your assignment," but continue out of obligation, attachment, or guilt. Misplaced kindness makes you misinterpret spiritual warnings as emotional reactions. But a person who wakes up spiritually begins to see patterns. They notice the same type of people showing up because they haven't changed the spiritual door they walk through. They notice the same heartbreak recurring because they haven't changed how they choose, discern, or guard themselves. They notice the same disrespect repeating because they haven't enforced a boundary. They notice the same disappointment happening because they keep ignoring the truth. They notice the same emotional pattern because they keep nurturing what they should release. The truth is, people can sense when you are afraid to lose them. And when they sense that fear, they begin to take advantage of it. Misplaced kindness communicates desperation. It tells people you will stay no matter how you are treated, that they can return after hurting you, that they can disrespect you and still have access, that they can drain your energy without consequence, that they can disappear and come back whenever they want. Misplaced kindness teaches others that your heart is an open buffet, and they can take whatever they want without giving anything in return. But here is another truth: when you realign your kindness with wisdom, the wrong people automatically lose access. Not because you become hard, but because you become whole. A whole person does not attract brokenness disguised as love. They do not entertain people who dishonor them. They do not give chances to those who abuse them. They do not negotiate their value. They do not sacrifice their peace for relationships. They do not allow emotional chaos into their spirit. They do not let loneliness dictate their choices. They do not confuse toxicity with loyalty. They do not repeat painful cycles because they refuse to repeat painful behaviors. Your patterns change when your standards change. Your relationships change when your boundaries change. Your experiences change when your expectations change. Your destiny changes when your decisions change. Your life changes when your kindness becomes aligned with wisdom rather than fear, obligation, or guilt. Because the truth is, you don't lose people when you stop misplacing your kindness. You simply lose the people who are benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Many people think God is silent during their painful cycles. But He has been speaking through discomfort, through spiritual exhaustion, through recurring red flags, through emotional uneasiness, through broken peace. Pain is not always punishment. Sometimes it is errors information. It is evidence of what must change. It is the voice of your spirit telling you that the version of yourself that attracted this pain must evolve. You keep meeting the same pain until you become a version of yourself that will no longer accept it. Pain stops repeating when discernment takes over, when wisdom grows, when boundaries strengthen, when identity becomes clear, when self-respect becomes non-negotiable. When you refuse to return to the version of yourself that tolerated what God never required you to endure. Misplaced kindness is a pattern you must break because heaven is preparing you for relationships that require emotional strength, spiritual clarity, and mental stability. You cannot walk into a new season carrying old ways of giving yourself away. The next chapter of your life requires upgraded discernment. Not everyone deserves your kindness. Not everyone deserves access to your heart. Not everyone deserves your time. Not everyone deserves your support. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. Not everyone deserves your softness. Not everyone deserves your sacrifice. Not everyone deserves the privilege of your presence. Because you are not ordinary, you are chosen. Your kindness is valuable. Your compassion is powerful. Your love is transformational. Your presence is purposeful. And because of that, you cannot afford to misplace your kindness anymore. Heaven cannot elevate a person who refuses to confront what is destroying them. Elevation requires separation, transformation, revelation, and confrontation. A person who wants to rise must first be willing to see what is keeping them low. They must face the truth they've been avoiding, acknowledge the patterns they've been excusing, recognize the people they've been protecting, and expose the lies they've been believing. God cannot heal what you hide. He cannot transform what you tolerate. He cannot deliver what you defend. He cannot promote what you refuse to confront. Confrontation is not about fighting people. It is about facing the spiritual forces, internal fears, and emotional wounds that have shaped your decisions. It is about looking at the version of yourself that pain created and deciding that they cannot come with you into the next season. A person who cannot confront their fears repeats them. A person who cannot confront their wounds relives them. A person who cannot confront their cycles stays trapped in them. A person who cannot confront the truth remains bound by lies. A person who cannot confront dishonor continues to accept it. A person who cannot confront manipulation continues to fall for it. A person who cannot confront brokenness continues to attract it. Confrontation is a spiritual requirement for transformation. You cannot defeat what you refuse to identify, and you cannot cast out what you continually entertain. God is not calling you to be aggressive, but He is calling you to be awakened. He is calling you to stop letting pain dictate your story, to stop letting fear shape your voice, to stop playing small to protect the comfort of others, to stop ignoring the truth that has been screaming at your spirit, to confront what has been controlling you. Most people avoid confrontation because they fear losing people. But the real question is this: why do you want to keep people who are harming your destiny? Why protect relationships that poison your peace? Why entertain conversations that weaken your confidence? Why keep friendships that drain your spirit? Why hold on to someone who holds you back? Why remain loyal to someone who is loyal to your pain, but not to your healing? Why stay committed to cycles that destroy you emotionally, spiritually, and mentally? Confrontation is not about causing conflict. It is about creating clarity. It shows you who respects you and who only respects their access to you. It reveals who values your presence and who only values your usefulness. It exposes who truly loves you and who is simply comfortable taking from you. A person who avoids confrontation becomes a prisoner to their silence. Their unspoken truth becomes their emotional burden. Their suppressed voice becomes their internal war. Their hidden frustration becomes their spiritual weakness. When a person cannot confront what hurts them, they grow accustomed to living in emotional survival mode. They normalize disrespect. They excuse manipulation. They justify mistreatment. They blame themselves for other people's dysfunction. They absorb pain that was never theirs to carry. They shrink their identity to keep the peace. But peace built on silence is not peace. It is emotional oppression wearing a polite mask. God is calling you to confront what has been stealing your joy. Confront the insecurity that tells you you're not enough. Confront the fear that whispers you will end up alone. Confront the shame that keeps you chained to your past. Confront the lies that say you must settle to be loved. Confront the wounds that shaped your low expectations. Confront the trauma that taught you to hide your voice. Confront the generational patterns that trained you to accept less than what God promised. A person who confronts themselves becomes unstoppable. When they confront their fears, they become courageous. When they confront their wounds, they become healed. When they confront their worth, they become confident. When they confront their boundaries, they become protected. When they confront their calling, they become powerful. When they confront their identity, they become unshakable. Confrontation is the birthplace of clarity, and clarity is the birthplace of destiny. A person who can see clearly cannot be easily deceived. A person who knows themselves cannot be controlled by others. A person who understands their value cannot be manipulated by attention. A person who recognizes God's voice cannot be distracted by counterfeits. A person who confronts their truth becomes a person who refuses to repeat their history. The enemy fears a person who confronts what he has been using against them. He fears a person who confronts their excuses, their procrastination, their emotional attachments. He fears a person who confronts the toxic version of themselves they became while surviving. He fears a person who confronts the parts of themselves that protected their pain instead of their purpose. He fears a person who confronts the internal voice that told them they were unworthy. He fears a person who confronts the thoughts that made them play small. He fears a person who confronts the lies he planted to limit their future. Because once a person confronts the truth, they walk in the authority that God always intended for them. A person who confronts is a person who rises. They rise in wisdom, discernment, strength, spiritual maturity, confidence, clarity, purpose, identity, and power. This is why God is calling you to confront everything that has kept you beneath your calling. You cannot rise while pretending you are not hurting. You cannot rise while ignoring what is broken. You cannot rise while excusing what is toxic. You cannot rise while avoiding what must be addressed. You cannot rise while protecting what keeps you low. God cannot elevate a person who refuses to confront the things that contradict their destiny. Many people pray for a new season without confronting the habits that sabotage it. They want new relationships, but keep the same low boundaries. They want new opportunities, but keep the same fear. They want new direction, but keep the same distractions. They want spiritual growth, but keep the same emotional cycles. They want divine alignment, but keep the same unhealthy attachments. They want God to open doors, but refuse to shut the old ones. But elevation requires elimination. You cannot carry everything into the next chapter. Some relationships expire because your destiny demands it. Some friendships fade because your purpose exposes their intentions. Some habits die because they cannot survive where you are going. Some behaviors fall off because maturity makes them unnecessary. Some mindsets collapse because revelation destroys them. Some cycles end because healing interrupts them. A person who refuses to confront their reality becomes stuck rehearsing their past. They repeat stories instead of writing new ones. They relive wounds instead of allowing God to heal them. They give chances to people who keep proving they don't deserve them. They hold on to people who keep proving they cannot grow with them. They invest in relationships that only withdraw from them. They sacrifice for people who will never sacrifice for them. They nurture people who are spiritually assigned to break them. But a person who confronts their truth stops repeating patterns. They stop entertaining foolishness. They stop accepting the bare minimum. They stop allowing emotional access to those who misuse it. They stop letting guilt control their decisions. They stop letting loneliness manipulate their choices. They stop letting fear silence their voice. They stop letting insecurity shape their standards. They stop letting pain guide their behavior. When a person confronts their truth, they step into spiritual maturity. They realize that confrontation is not conflict, it is clarity. Not aggression, alignment. Not disrespect, stewardship. Not rebellion, protection. Not disobedience, obedience to the voice of God over the emotions of people. The person God is raising in this season must confront their spiritual environment. They must confront the relationships that influence their decisions, the habits that weaken their purpose, the attachments that distract their calling, the emotional wounds that shape their patterns, the internal fears that shape their choices, the spiritual attacks that influence their behavior. Because elevation requires clarity, and clarity requires confrontation. The truth is, many people are not stuck because God is silent. They are stuck because they are avoiding what God is pointing at. They are afraid of the discomfort of truth. They fear who they will lose. They fear who they will become. They fear the responsibility of healing. But God is not calling you to comfort. He is calling you to transformation. And transformation begins the moment you confront the version of yourself that cannot enter your next season. A person who refuses to confront will always remain in cycles they were born to break. They will continue living below the level God designed for them. They will continue accepting relationships that do not honor them. They will continue being influenced by people who do not value them. They will continue entertaining pain because avoiding truth feels easier. But a person who confronts becomes a person who evolves. They no longer apologize for their standards. They no longer explain their boundaries. They no longer tolerate disrespect. They no longer abandon their own needs. They no longer lose themselves in the name of loyalty. They no longer allow fear to control their life. Your elevation is waiting behind one courageous moment of confrontation. One moment where you decide to speak the truth. One moment where you choose yourself. One moment where you honor your worth. One moment where you confront what has been controlling you. One moment where you release what has been draining you. One moment where you let go of who you were to become, who God designed you to be. You have spent enough seasons avoiding the truth. You have survived enough years pretending you were fine. You have carried enough pain that was never meant to be your identity. This is the moment heaven is calling you to rise. Rise above the lies. Rise above the fear. Rise above the wounds. Rise above the patterns. Rise above the people who benefit from your silence. Rise above the version of yourself that pain created. Because the person you are becoming is stronger than the person you used to be. Wiser, clearer, braver, more aligned with heaven. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop a person who finally confronts what has been stopping them. Stop being nice to everyone. Start being obedient to God. Stop being nice to everyone. Start protecting your purpose. Stop being nice to everyone. Start honoring your boundaries. Stop being nice to everyone. Start walking in your authority. Stop being nice to everyone. Start embracing your calling. Stop being nice to everyone. Start becoming who God created you to be. The world doesn't need more nice people. It needs more powerful people. People who know their identity. People who walk in authority. People who aren't afraid to speak truth. People who aren't controlled by the opinions of others. People who aren't manipulated by guilt or obligation. People who have confronted their truth and embraced their destiny. Be that person. Stop being nice to everyone. Now listen carefully. If this message has stirred something in your spirit, if you felt that conviction rise up inside you, if you know that God is speaking to you right now, I need you to respond. Don't just watch this and walk away. Don't let this message fall on deaf ears. Don't let the enemy steal what God is trying to plant in your heart right now. Pause this video for a moment. Look at the screen and say out loud, Dalaf. I am stopping being nice to everyone. I am starting to be obedient to God. Say it like you mean it. Say it like your destiny depends on it, because it does. If you're ready to take that step, if you're ready to confront what has been controlling you, if you're ready to stop being nice and start being powerful, comment down below. I want to see those comments. I want to see the declarations. Type, I am stopping being nice to everyone. Type 5, I am confronting my truth. Type the I am rising. Let me hear your faith. Let me see your courage. Let the enemy know you are not playing anymore. And don't stop there. Hit that like button. This is not just a click. It's a declaration. It's you saying, I agree with this message. I'm ready to change. I'm ready to stop being nice to everyone. When you hit that like button, you are aligning yourself with heaven's agenda for your life. So hit it right now. Subscribe to this channel. We are building a movement here. A movement of people who are done with being controlled by the opinions of others. A movement of people who are ready to walk in their God-given authority. A movement of people who are not afraid to confront their truth and embrace their destiny. If that is you, hit subscribe right now and turn on that notification bell, because you don't want to miss what's coming next. I'm about to release messages that are going to shake you, challenge you, and elevate you to a whole new level. So don't miss out. Share this video. Share it with everyone who needs to hear this message. Share it with your friends who are trapped in people pleasing. Share it with your family members who are exhausted from being too nice. Share it with your co-workers who are being taken advantage of. Share it with your church community. Share it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Send it in a text message. Post it in your group chat. This message is too important to keep to yourself. People are suffering because they are too nice, and they don't even know it. You could be the one who sets them free. So share this video right now. I want to see this video go viral. I want it to reach millions of people who are trapped in the prison of niceness. I want it to break chains, shatter yokes, set captives free, wake people up from their spiritual slumber, and start a revolution. And the only way that happens is if you share it. Go ahead, share it right now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't let fear stop you. And comment. I want to read your comments. Tell me what you're confronting. Tell me what you're releasing. Tell me what you're stepping into. Tell me how this message impacted you. I read every single comment. I pray over every single request. Your comment matters. Your story matters. Your breakthrough matters. If you're ready to take this even further, if you want to go deeper, if you want to really break free from niceness and step into your destiny, I'll be doing follow-up videos on how to set boundaries without feeling guilty, how to walk in your spiritual authority, and how to discern who truly belongs in your life. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of them. To us now, let me pray over you before I go. Yes, this is not just a video. This is a divine appointment. Something is shifting in the spirit right now. If you're watching this, God has a specific purpose for you. He is calling you out of the prison of niceness and into the freedom of obedience. And He is about to do something new in your life. Father, I pray for every person watching this video right now. Give them the courage to stop being nice to everyone and start being obedient to you. Break every chain of people pleasing. Shatter every yoke of fear and obligation. Give them the boldness to speak truth, to set boundaries, to protect their purpose, and to walk in their authority. As Lord, heal the wounds that made them so nice. Heal the rejection that made them seek approval. Heal the abandonment that made them fear losing people. Heal the trauma that taught them to silence themselves. Heal the shame that made them hide their true identity. Your Father, I declare that this is a new season for them, a season of power, clarity, confidence, purpose, and authority. I declare that the chains of niceness are broken in the name of Jesus. I declare that the spirit of people pleasing is cast out. I declare that they are walking in the freedom that Christ purchased for them. We all, Lord, give them wisdom to know who deserves their kindness and who does not. Give them discernment to see red flags early. Give them courage to walk away from what is not for them. Give them strength to enforce their boundaries. Give them confidence to trust their spirit. Give them clarity to hear your voice above all others. And Lord, surround them with people who honor them, value them, and support their purpose. Remove from their lives everyone who is draining them, using them, or manipulating them. Close doors that need to be closed and open doors that need to be opened. I pray all of this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. And now go. Stop being nice to everyone. Start walking in your purpose. Remember, being nice is not your assignment. Being obedient, being powerful, being who God created you to be, that is. God bless you. I'll see you in the next video. And don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, share. Let's get this message to the world. I'm believing for your breakthrough. See you next time.